afternoon, students. It's Mr. Sargent here with your daily recap video. Today we're going to be focusing on Fables in ELA. We're going to be also creating some our own BME maps. After that, in science, we have energy to look forward to. Now, there is a special experiment at the end, so please stay tuned for what you're going to learn today
about what fables are. Now, fables are stories that have been passed through generations, just like we've been talking about folk tales and tall tales. Fables have been passed through generations. Now, usually their main characters are insects or they are animals. Now, what these stories are great for is teaching a moral or a lesson that we can learn from it. Now, for instance, we first heard this story behind us, and it is called The Grasshopper and the Ants. If you're interested in that story, I put the link to the video in the description below. Feel free to check it out. But when we did our BME for this, we pretty much broke down the beginning, middle, and end. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the beginning, middle, and end of these stories. So, the ants spent all this time working, all summer, all spring, all fall, working to prepare for winter. Meanwhile, our grasshopper friend here just sat back, played around, got fat, and did no work. Then all of a sudden, winter came. The ants were nice and safe, and they had plenty of food because they had prepared. The grasshopper, on the other hand, had a tough time because the grasshopper didn't put the work in. And then our story ends with the grasshopper learning their lesson. And the fact is, the lesson is pretty simple. We need to prepare for what we want. And I love this story because it talks a lot about what we can do for preparing for our future, such as homework, making sure we're at school, making sure we have a good attitude, making sure we're asking great questions. Ladies and gentlemen, these are all ways that you can prepare for greatness later on. We then switched to the lion and the mouse. Now, the great thing about this fable is you have a copy of it in your Google Classroom, or for some of you that have the book, you can read about the lion and the mouse. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and spoil it for you because I would love to see what you guys can do for a BME. Now, the big thing to remember about this story is, and your BME is, I don't want words. I just want to see if you can pick out the beginning, middle, and end using your incredible artwork. And ladies and gentlemen, your work is incredible. You may just jot something down real quick, but if you take your time, I would love to see it. And now on to science. Now, with science today, we have the essential question of, what is gravity? And that is an incredible question. I think gravity is one of those things that we take for granted every single day. Any day that I'm not flying off into space, which thankfully has been every day that I've been alive, is a great day. Now, a lot of that is due to gravity. So today's lessons, we're going to be learning about what gravity is, how we use gravitational energy, and we're going to test these theories by, well, to be honest with you, we're going to be breaking some stuff later on. All right?
So as you can see here, we are now on Earth. Now, the great thing about Earth is it has two things going for it. Now, these two things, when you add them together, they cause our gravity. The first thing is, well, it's what it's doing right now. Rotation. The Earth is constantly spinning on the outside as well as on the inside in the core. And that helps create gravity. Now, the second thing that something needs in order to have gravity is mass. Now, I don't want you thinking mass is weight. Weight does have a role to play in gravity, but mass is just how much space we take up. Now, as you can see behind me, Earth takes up a lot of space, doesn't it? Which is great because you tie that in with the rotation. You add rotation and you add mass together, and ladies and gentlemen, boom.
So what is gravitation?
We have gravity. Now, we often think of energy as power, strength, something that gets us moving. And really, if you really think about it, gravity makes us stand still. So how can that create energy? Well, you can't create energy. If you don't learn anything from this video, remember this, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot create it and you cannot destroy it. All right? Energy is out there already. All we can do is change the form of energy. Sort of like how we change a liquid to a solid or a gas. We change gravitational energy into something else. So what we're going to be testing today, with the help of the trusty ladder of science, as well as some objects that I picked up along the way, we're going to see the effects that gravitational energy has on these objects. So before we even begin, I'm kind of missing something. Now I'm ready to do some science. So what we're going to do is, well, first of all, you're not going to do anything because this is one of those do not try at home videos for certain parts of it. But have you ever dropped something on the ground and it breaks or it bounces or it just stays there? So what we're going to do today is test the different levels of gravitational energy that we have on an object. Now, just dropping it from my chair is one thing, but what we're going to be using is my trusty ladder of science, once again, to show you how the higher we go up, the more gravitational energy that we actually create. So let's go ahead and test some of these things out. So the first thing you can see is I walked up the ladder and I dropped a balloon and a bouncy ball. Now, as they fall down, look at the reaction of what happens. So did you see that? We dropped both at the same time, and the bouncy ball, because its weight was a little bit more, fell a lot quicker. Now, we also have the balloon filled with air, so it's gonna come down a lot softer. But if you notice, when the bouncy ball hit, the gravitational energy that it took to pull that down, the minute it hit the ground, all that energy transferred into the bouncy ball. And then, well, the energy had to go somewhere, didn't it? Because we cannot destroy it, we cannot create it, we just transfer it. So the gravitational energy transferred from the ground into the bouncy ball. Well, what is the bouncy ball going to do next? It is going to bounce up. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Next, we have a metal baking pan. Any predictions? Let's see what happens. Next, let's check out this Lego car. Let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. Next, we have a cup of soda. Let's see how this turns out, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have a water balloon. Next, let's try this with a soda can to see what happens. Finally, we have a light bulb. So what did you think? Did you notice how some materials handle the gravitational energy a lot better than others? We had examples like the ball or like some of the plastic things that handle the gravitational energy a lot better. The things that didn't, well, usually they're the things that broke. The glass, the can of soda, all of these things, if they have too much energy, well, they can't handle it, and you see what happens. Now, the big thing that I hope you notice is how that energy changes. Some change into movement, but some of the energy turned into sound, which is pretty incredible. Either way, the energy is going somewhere. Remember, we cannot destroy it and we cannot create it. All we can do is change it. And that's it for wait a minute. Now that's it for today. Hopefully you learned something, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, bring them to class tomorrow. I cannot wait to be able to teach you again tomorrow. So until then, have a wonderful, wonderful night.